A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 68th edition of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Since the start of the COVID pandemic and when the lockdown had just started, we have been hosting this Together for Education webinars. It started with a humble move to try and get our esteemed educators more hands-on training on various teaching platforms. Zoom was gaining prominence, so we decided to use this platform. However, over the last so many months, this event seems to have taken a life of its own. A few weeks back, we were informed that this has become the largest thought-sharing experiment for educators anywhere on the planet. And that itself has been a huge achievement for all of us. And it would not have been possible without your enduring love and support. So for that, we remain humbled and thank you so very much. We at Notebook are an EdTech platform. We provide small, crisp videos that are tailored to the CBSE school curriculum. Teachers have access to these videos when they're taking their classes, be it online or offline. Later, when the student has to revise a particular topic, they have access to the same videos from home on their personal devices, which are smartphones or laptops, whatever they have. We at Notebook have been privileged to be able to serve more than 2 million students till date. And we keep trying to help our student community and the educator community in every way we possibly can. Before we start with the topic for today, which is new age parenting, I'm going to play a short sample of one of the Notebook videos for you, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Hello boys and girls. Welcome to today's video lesson. Before we begin our story, you have to tell me a secret. Which of your parents were you more afraid of while growing up? I was really scared of my mother, who was a very strict disciplinarian and always made me and my sister study really hard. However, now that I'm a grown-up, I understand why she acted the way she did. She's now one of my closest friends. In today's video, we shall read a heartwarming story titled The Little Girl by the renowned short story writer Katherine Mansfield. The story speaks of a child's changing bond with her father. Kathleen Mansfield Murray was a writer from colonial New Zealand who gained popularity as a short story writer with her much-known pen name, Katherine Mansfield. She is considered one of the most gifted and prolific writers of her time, and a pioneer of the short story genre, of which you have a sample right here in your syllabus. Mansfield struggled with ill health for much of her life and died at the young age of 34. The story of the little girl revolves around a sweet little girl, Kezia, for whom her father was someone to be feared and avoided. The only feeble interaction she had ritually with her dad had been the time when he left office and she bade him goodbye, and then, when he returned, she'd go down to take off her father's boots. She was so terribly scared of her father that she often used to stutter badly in his presence. This never happened with anyone else. To the little lass, the very thought of her father, who was really big in size, was no less than that of a terrifying giant. Usually, during the lazy Sunday afternoons, her grandmother would send her down to talk to her parents, so that the little soul could spend some good times with them. However, even then, her parents used to be really busy enjoying their own leisure times. It is important to understand why Kezia is distant from her father.
Well, that was a small sample of one of the Notebook videos. More than 10,000 such videos are available at your disposal should you choose to use Notebook as part of your classes. Well, with that short introduction, it is now time to dive into our session for today. Parenting has changed over the years. Today, we will have a look at how parenting stands in this new age. Our first speaker today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. He qualified as a leadership trainer at the Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete an adventurer, and a naturalist. So, privileged to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Shubayu. Um, is everything okay on the visual and audio scene?
Hey, yes, sir. Perfect.
So, good evening, Achin and Abhishek, Shubayu, the Notebook team. Also to our esteemed panelists, Dr. Sarkar and Mrs. Pagdiwalla, as well as all our guests who've tuned in. So, most jobs have a retirement age, and most roles we play come to an end sometime or the other. And there's a shelf life for most other things. But parenting is one task or a responsibility that never ends. Once a parent, always a parent. No matter how old we are, we've always got a parent who we lean on emotionally, if not financially. I was lucky to have my father till my mid 60s. And while I wasn't, financially attached to him, certainly I gained a lot of emotional support from my father, and I was lucky to have him till quite late, in my life. So traditionally, parents have two roles: the nurture role and the structure role. Now, in the nurturing role, a child's basic needs are taken care of. Things like food, medical care, shelter, clothing, and they give love, attention, understanding, acceptance, time, and support. And of course, the benefits of the nurture role is that children feel good about themselves. They feel lovable, they feel worthy, they feel listened to because their ideas and their feelings are all understood. They become more trusting because they know that their needs will be met. They also know how to take difficult situations and face challenges and are able to give back to other people through the emotional support that has been given to them by their parents. And they build up this ability to empathize with others. Of course, there is something called too much nurturing. You can be overprotective as a parent, too responsive to your child's needs, and too involved with their lives as well. And if this happens, I think children, they don't learn the skills to take care of themselves, and they don't learn to consider other people's needs. On the other hand, they can be too little nurturing, where the parent is emotionally distant and not adequately involved with their children's life. And as a result, children don't feel loved and supported in the way they should be. The other part of a parent's role is the structure part of it. In this role, parents give direction, impose rules, use discipline, set limits, boundaries, establish and follow through with consequences, and hold their children accountable for their behavior. They also teach values. And the benefits of a good structured family is that children feel safe. There's a sense of safety when you draw boundaries around children. Children do not like a laissez-faire type of atmosphere. They want boundaries. They learn to tolerate a reasonable amount of frustration and disappointment. They also are less egocentric. They learn to be responsible. They learn from their mistakes. They gain experience by making decisions and making mistakes. They are self-sufficient and capable, and they internalize rules and values that their parents teach. Again, just like nurture, you could have too much structure, which is harsh discipline. Children don't learn to think for themselves. There are parents breathing down their necks. Or you may have too little structure, where parents are absent, children feel confused, they feel lost, they feel less protected. And I think the basic thing about parenting is to get the blend proper. There is a balance needed, and each family has to work out for itself the balance that they require. I think if you look at children today, the mother is very important in the earlier stages of a child's life, where the I skills are developed. Skills like values, family mores, norms, eating, discipline. And then we move on to the we skills, which is cooperation, making friends, treating others, sharing, concern for others. Fathers become very important later on in life as the boy enters the teens, but also very important for girls. Now, in traditional homes, the mother was the major caregiver. The homework, the teacher, the parent-teacher stuff that happened, and fathers were mostly, they were preoccupied, absent mostly. But for a girl, it's so important that her father, being the first man she can relate to, colors how she will relate to other men in her life. A father must tell his daughter, how lovely she is, how worthy she is, how strong she is, and that he will always support her. I think a father has four responsibilities to his children: to influence and impart values, to confer a healthy identity to the children, to provide security, especially emotional security, and to affirm potential. Now, I think I taught in a boys' school for most of my life, and I discovered that there are two things boys want from their fathers. At the end of school, boys would ask, "Have I made my father proud of me?" That's the most important thing that's what they're mostly concerned with. Have I made my father proud of me? And have I developed my potential in these years at school? A father is very important, in the teenage years of a boy's life. And I had a boy in school who told me, he says, there are two men in my life who are very important: my housemaster and my father, in that order. You can imagine how important the other man. And I think it's very important to have that second man who's outside the family, maybe an uncle, but he is the tutor, the coach, the mentor, the wise man, the figure in Tuesdays with Muri, the starettes, the elder. Very important to have this second man in a boy's life. Recently, I was reading a book by Shifali Tasabji. It's called Conscious Parenting. And the entire book can be summarized in the need for parents to be conscious of how they handle their inner life, their shadow life. And the basic problem of parents is to work out their own brokenness, their hidden issues, their childhood demons, and not thrust this unfinished business and unlived parts of themselves into their children's lives. And these unlived, unresolved issues they carry with them can be seen when we react to children when they press our wrong buttons. So when a child says something that triggers off a reaction in us, it is the child pressing the wrong buttons. I think we need to be conscious of the buttons that they press and get to understand ourselves. Today, however, in most nuclear families, parents are very different to what they were about 20 years ago. They jointly parent. They spend time with their kids as a team. The fathers are as important and as hands-on as mothers. They are role models. They have to be role models that they expect their children to be. I think today's parent is far more savvy, well-read, and I think he knows a lot of child psychology, which my father never knew. They watch their children grow up and take an active part in their development. And I think the best thing a parent can do for a child is to listen to them, to spend quality time with them, to read to them, to be a loving father and husband to the children's mother, to join them in their hobbies and interests, and sit with them while they play their sports or their music. They need to also share their dreams, their plans, and I must add, failures. I think it's important for children to know that their parents failed. They're not, parents are people who have feet of clay. I loved my father when he told me about his setbacks, because that teaches them to be resilient and how to get up after each fall, after each failure. There are also things that parents need to share with teachers, just as there are things that teachers need to share with parents. In a boarding school that I taught in, there's always a hidden life. A child develops another side to himself. He reinvents himself and lives a second life in a boarding school away from parents. And I think the teacher has to convey the second side, this other side to parents, just as he must be open to hearing things about the boy or the girl back in the family. Uh, I think the most important regret that people have as they age is they didn't spend enough time with their families. On the other hand, if you look at the not so good parenting, there are children who come from broken homes, single parent families, divorced families, where there's domestic strife, addictions, abuse in so many ways, sexual, physical, distant and preoccupied parents. There are also parents who are helicopter parents, buzzing around, giving their children no space, over controlling, over demanding, living out, as I said, their unresolved parts through their children. I often hear at parent teacher meetings, oh, I was a topper. I'm an engineer. I'm a gold medalist. Why is my son only getting 93%? And sometimes parents vacillate between being overprotective and domineering to the laissez-faire, indulgent parent. And this midpoint, this balance is not met. You know, especially in careers, I've seen mothers, especially, I hope they don't mind, getting very over concerned about which college and which courses the kid is going to take. And instead of leaving it to the child, they get so involved. I think it's some sort of an hidden ego issue that they didn't achieve much, unfinished business, but they get so hyper about college admissions. Also, I think parents need to know that children are not clones of theirs. They need their own space and they need to grow up individually. They're different. Also, in today's life, parents do not make much of a distinction between raising girl and boy children like it was 50 years ago. Today, I think girls have to be taught sport and how to defend themselves just as much as boys need to know how to cook and do housework and how to iron clothes. What I find really, what riles me is sometimes parents encourage in children this sense of entitlement. You know, he's got to be the school captain, he's got to be the prefect, he's got to be the top boy in the drama competition. You know, they suffer from this sense of over entitlement. And therefore, parents work in opposition to the school rather than work with the school. Parents make their children believe that they can get anything they want. They never allow frustration to build up and are always there at hand to assist, fix, and rescue their children. They spoil them with gadgets, money, to compensate, I think, for a lack of time that they have to spend with their children. And sometimes they are so concerned with the external appearances or status. For example, the colleges they go to. It all becomes cocktail party talk for parents. Careers matter a lot to parents because of success. And again, what is success? I think parents need to sit with children. If a parent has a close relationship with his child, I think it's important that a kid knows what is success and how he defines success for himself, and not entirely, I hope, on materialistic gains. Now, I also read a book where I read about this tacit understanding that exists sometimes in cultures between parents and children. For example, in the 18th century, the tacit understanding in Great Britain was that one son became a lawyer, one son became a priest, and one son became a doctor. And this was understood. And just like in the Second World War, the tacit understanding was that boys from public schools did join the army or the Air Force and the Navy, and they would go to war. Today, I find in the current world, the tacit understanding between parent and child is that the parent says or believes that the kid has to be a success in terms of material success. And the parent is going to turn a blind eye to whatever the child does. So if the parent is phoned by the school authorities and there's a complaint about the kid or that he's being suspended for something, the parent will always take the child's side, because the tacit understanding is, I'll turn a blind eye to your faults as long as you are a success and I can lift my head in public. And that, I think that is where we are going wrong. Another thing that parents must do, I think, in today's age is to teach their children respect for women. We talk so much about save the girl child. I think what needs to be saved is our boys. Our boys need to be saved. And parents and mothers especially have to save their sons. Gender equality, the worldview, respect for all religions. The earth is a global village. This is important. It's important that parents get involved with teaching their children what they need to know about sexuality, what they need about women, how to respect women. This is where we are going wrong. Finally, I'll say that the COVID epidemic in the year we've been through has thrown children and parents into close proximity, much more than previously was the case. There's been time spent together. Yes, they have got on each other's nerves, I'm sure. Voices have been raised. But here was an opportunity for parents and children to actually get to know each other and to get to know the school. It's like a triumvirate. It's parent, teacher, and school. And while some parents have been very frustrated by this 1 year, some parents, I think, have benefited by being in close proximity with their children. And I just do hope that when schools reopen and things get down to normal again, that parents will have changed. They will have decided to spend more time with their children, and they have appreciated the time that teachers have taken in this year to look after their children, do those online classes, and make sure they haven't lost a year academically. I think it's important that parents understand the role teachers play and how important teachers are, just as teachers need to understand the importance of parents. And with that, I want to hand this back to you, Shubhayu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. We at Notebook have never tried giving out parenting advice as a product, but I'm quite sure when this particular video goes up on YouTube, that's going to be one of the categories where we'll be trending because of the speech that you just gave. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the second speaker for the day, we have with us Achin Bhattacharyya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubhai, am I audible?
Yeah, Achin, loud and clear.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. I once again welcome all of you to today's session, which perhaps revolves around the most important questions that all of us as parents want an answer to. Unlike everything else, a child doesn't come with an instruction manual on how to handle him or her. And hence the challenges at times do catch us off guard and require impromptu solutions. We all wonder if our parents had an easier job of parenting compared to us, or was it as hard to parent in the past? Now, the shift in parenting mindset is obvious. Earlier, there used to be a clearer hierarchy between a parent and the child. Respect was expected of a child to any adult. Any disobedience would result in an immediate punishment. These days, however, many parents practically struggle to maintain this hierarchy. It's not that today's children, they do not respect their parents. Obviously they do. But ways of the world have changed. And perhaps relational parenting has taken a front seat, while authoritative approach to parenting is deemed less acceptable. Now, there's an increasing pressure to parent the right way. Apart from extra responsibilities, such as ensuring emotional and physical health, parents must think of many other aspects, such as good education, quality enrichment, positive relationships, and issues like use or misuse of screen time. Thus, merely providing shelter, food, education, like the basics, is not deemed adequate parenting anymore. Now, before I move ahead with my deliberation, I would like to share two real-life incidents. And also, these are first-hand incidents. And these incidents really, triggered a chain of thoughts and was one of the reasons as to why we chose this topic. For now, both these incidents, the first one of my friends who stays in Bangalore tells me that suddenly she feels completely out of place in her own home. And why is that so? Her school-going daughter, who has just entered her teens, have become a rebel. And she doesn't simply understand what to do. Now, simple aspects, simple incidents, like for instance, her daughter simply refuses to agree with her on anything under the sky, be it like aspects as simple and day-to-day as the menu for breakfast, what to watch on TV, when to do her homework, or what to wear for a friend's birthday bash. Now, my friend, who is very well read and globally traveled, and who is otherwise known in her personal and professional circles for her patience, is at times losing the same in her own home. Now, this was one incident I wanted to share. Mother-daughter bond, everything going fine. One fine day, within a few months, things completely changed. Change like 180-degree change. And she's really struggling to cope up with this and arrive at a solution. Now, let me share another incident. This again revolves around one of my friends, and who is also a colleague and based out of Delhi. She tells me that her young son, who is just entering college, has a different problem. Otherwise, very well behaved, doing good. Suddenly, one day, in the middle of the night, she wakes up. And might be motherly instincts, she goes out of her bedroom and checks the main door of her flat. And she's surprised to find the main door being unlocked from inside. That means someone has gone out. And it's something around 2 a.m. in the morning. Naturally, she enters her son's room and she finds that the door is unlocked. She enters and she finds her young son not in his room. Naturally, her first reaction that any of us would do, she starts calling her son's mobile number, only to find it ringing. No one at the other end taking the call. After trying a couple of times, when she was finally on the verge of waking up her husband and other family members, finally, he calls back and very casually answers that he has come to a 24/7 hangout and is having a good time with his friends in a very, very normally, very casually. It's not that he meant any harm. It's not that he thought this to be an act which needed to be discussed previously. Very casually, he went out in the early hours of the morning, around 2 o'clock. Now, these are real life parenting challenges. Our parents and grandparents had a very different set of parenting challenges. They managed things very efficiently, no doubt about it. And most of the times with access to far less resources than what we have at our disposal. But yes, they also had their own set of advantages, joint families, neighbors who are far more involved and invested in the upbringing of the child compared to today's nuclear family parenting in multi-storied housing complexes. At the end of the day, whichever parenting method parents choose, it is always in the best interest of the child. I'm sure all of us would agree. However, there are different ways in different eras. I was going through a book called Keep Calm and Parent On. You know, one of the renowned books in this particular subject by author Emma Jenner. Now, Emma is a child development and child behavioral specialist. And she is more commonly known for her role as host of TLC's Take Home Nanny. Emma is a formally trained British nanny with over a decade of in-home childcare experience, working with families in UK, across US. And her book aims to effectively help readers to see their child's behavior from an objective standpoint. One that puts the parents firmly in charge. Now, according to the author, parents used to hold their children to a higher standard. Lately, it seems that the expectations have been significantly lowered. Thankfully, bad behavior is really just a habit that she feels can still be corrected. The question is, how do you correct it? As we discussed earlier, back in the day, it was not uncommon for parents to reprimand their son or daughter with physical force. Today's parents are very hesitant to lay a hand on their child, and for good reasons. You know, we all agree on that. But she feels that it's not necessary to apply physical force. The author goes on to explain that if you establish boundaries and consequences, you will not need to go that extra mile. Establishing clear boundaries, according to her, definitely helps. And she also explains that it's never too late to take control of your relationships with your child, irrespective of how old he or she is and which particular stage the entire relationship is in. She very clearly lays out 5 challenges with regard to modern day parenting crisis. 5 challenges. So the entire book revolves around these 5 challenges. Just to mention, first challenge that she mentions is a fear of our children. At times, parents are scared of consequences as to how the child will react. A lower bar for acceptable behavior. Third challenge that she mentions and very elaborately mentions is lesser involvement of the community. You know, we have lost our villages, we have lost our communities, because as we have discussed earlier also in this forum, it actually takes a village to raise a child. So lesser involvement of extended family members, neighbors, and reliance on shortcut, which again is because of working parents who are really struggling to ensure that they're able to balance between their professional and personal lives. And also she feels that at times parents always tend to put their children's need ahead of their own. And that's an universal phenomenon across the globe, which at times, according to her, is not the right approach. The child also needs to understand that there needs to be a balance. Now, in today's age, when we raise kids with the kind of pressure, many of them end up leading a checklisted childhood, and that's true. We want to ensure that they go to the best possible school, get good scores, and not only scores, we also want to ensure that they do well in extracurricular activities, be it sports, other activities. Now, very often we see that there's little time for play. There's nothing called those long afternoons that we had when we grew up as a child. Every activity is a make or break moment for because we want them to excel in it. It's not that very often parents don't encourage their children to participate in activities for the sake of enjoying it, to discover their interests. Very often they are expected to perform in each and every activity that they are a part of. So at times they tend to get obsessed with grades and scores. Now, I was going through a survey, a very interesting survey. And this is perhaps the longest longitudinal survey, study of humans, Harvard Grant study. I was going through it. And it finds that professional success in life, according to the study, professional success in life, and I'm sure all of us as parents and any parent will want the children to do well. The study goes on to mention that professional success in life, there's a very strong correlation between professional success and the kind of participation, the kind of involvement that a child had in terms of doing household chores, in terms of doing his or her own work. So the study mentions that the earlier a child starts, simple things like making their own bed, taking care of their own or school bag in terms of looking at what books to carry, because that roll up your sleeves and get going, that mindset, it says it's very important to succeed in professional life, because that is something which will really help someone to get ahead in the workplace. So what happens is, very often children who grow up with a checklisted childhood, doing things that they're asked to do and always being obsessed with grades, very often, and at times we absolve them from household responsibilities, that there are people who take care of them, do each and everything. Once they grow up and they start their professional careers, very often they're found to be lacking in terms of their contribution to the team. Because at times, when the going gets tough, it is important that among team members, there are some people who will volunteer and will say that, okay, I want to do this. I understand it's tough. I understand it's a crisis, but I want to take this up. But if someone is more used to only following the conventional path, wherein he or she always knows that this is what I'm expected to do and this is the result, and there is no scope for surprises, there is no scope for failure, it's very difficult for him or her to take up such challenges. A second very important finding from the same study, Harvard Grant study, says that happiness in life comes from love, and not only from love for work. When it says love for humans, love for spouse, partner, friends, family. So childhood needs to teach our kids how to love. And they can't love others if they don't first love themselves. And they don't love themselves if we can't offer them unconditional love, which has got nothing to do with their performance, nothing to do with how much they score in their class test, or whether he or she is chosen as a school captain, nothing to do with unconditional love, which all parents anyways do. But here we are also discussing about expressing that love, communicating that love, unconditional love and acceptance. So parenting, as we all know, is a vast topic, right? We all can go on and on. So, for instance, very often, we all have seen this. We all have seen a child throwing up a tantrum publicly, maybe in a store, in a mall, and parents struggling on somehow to pacify the child. We all think that the parent has no clue. But the question is that as a society, as a civil society, I guess all of us need to be more supportive, because parenting indeed in today's age is tough for nuclear parents with little support. So I was going through, if we discuss about the right way of parenting, I firmly believe that it's a vast topic. So rather than looking at it from what to do, I was just looking at some pitfalls, things that we should avoid, things which are based on pure common sense, which all of us anyways knows. But just to put them in black and white, I think first and foremost, it's really important to insist on limits, to set boundaries. Because if a child is spoiled, and the consequences will be that, the consequences later on will be that he or she will grow up as a rather demanding and selfish adult. So later point of time, they will encounter setbacks, be it school, workplace. So in the same book that I mentioned, Emma Jenner, she pointed out that there's a happy medium between being over strict and being far too lenient. The solution is to make sure that there are limits and consequences for acceptable behavior. Another common, mistake that parents should avoid, I guess, is at times parents tend to get protective about their child, and someone else trying to discipline the child. Naturally, for a parent, it might be difficult to take it. So I was reading about a student who was punished for smoking in the school grounds, punished by the teacher, and the father rushed to defend his son. The boy grew up to be a heavy smoker and drinker and is obese now. Now, parents who rush in to stop people disciplining their children at times end up damaging them in the long run. So it's really important for parents to ensure that if someone else is taking adequate interest in his or her child and trying to discipline them, and for right reasons, and especially school teachers, of course, that's the role that parents should appreciate. Another very, I'll say, common issue is not being able to empathize with the child. Thus, at times when we see children getting, aggressive, it is important to drive home the point that at times verbal communication is far more effective. We need to drive home the point that, verbal communication is always more effective than reacting physically. Also, things like, for example, ensuring that celebrating every small success and milestone that a child achieves, however small that is. But if you look at his or her world, that small success means a lot. So that needs to be celebrated. Also, I guess, and this again happens to many parents, we all remember how we grew up. And very subconsciously, many parents tend to model their parenting behavior based on how they were raised as a child. But every child and every era is different. Not necessarily that works. So I guess this is again something that you need to keep in mind. Another very important aspect is ensuring that we set good examples for our children. Because whatever we do, children tend to copy and mirror that behavior, whether that be our eating habits, whether that be at times, say, many parents at times criticizing school or teachers in front of the child. I guess these are things which are strict no-no. Because today, if a parent does this without realizing that the child is listening, tomorrow he or she will tend to mirror that behavior, which is completely unacceptable. I guess another very important aspect is being able to spend quality time with children. Thus, switching off the laptop, smartphone, ensuring that the TV is off, and you spend quality time with your children without any distraction. Again, teaching patience to me, I guess, is one of the most important virtues. Thus, but it's also mentioned this sense of entitlement. At times, this sense of entitlement, is something, if it comes in children, it will become very, very difficult and damaging for them in the long run. The simple things like whether it be waiting for a public transport or learning to stand in a queue and waiting for his or her turn, teaching patience will reap immense rewards later in life. Another very important aspect, I guess, and that all parents need to do is guiding our children. Now, there's a difference between giving instructions, orders, and engaging with them, making connection, empathizing, and properly guiding them. It's not only about telling them that do this or don't do this, but also about explaining, right? Reminding them that the rule is X. We don't do Y because of Z. And please do A instead of B because it can be of a great help. So I guess modern day parenting mistakes can be avoided by setting limits and following through on consequences. Above all, being there to guide, support, and love children. I'm sure we'll pay handsome dividends later on. So today we have a stellar panel. And in this very important topic, I also look forward to their deliberations. And there is another thing that I want to mention before handing it back to Shubhayu. See, another reason why we chose this topic, all of us, irrespective of our professions, we're also parents, right? So this is something where we thought in this platform, we wanted to share our views. And second, I guess it's really important because with so many esteemed educators in our forum who also shape so many lives and interact with parents, and at times also counsel them on better ways of parenting. So I guess this is where this topic really assumes significance in order to spread the good word around and ensuring better future for our children. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I'm sure every parent out there has taken note of things you had to say. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our stellar panel to take the stage. This is when we have the panel discussion on new age parenting. I will quickly introduce both our panelists, both eminent principals, before we start the discussion. We are privileged to have with us Ms. Annahita Pagdiwalla, who holds an M.Ed from Boston University, specializes in curriculum and learning, is a visionary and a forward thinker who firmly believes that education is the key to a successful life, education that will develop thinkers and leaders for tomorrow. She believes that students should be taught the skills and not just the content. With this belief, she began her journey in the field of education. She worked as a teacher and the head of Department of Science with English Schools Foundation Hong Kong for 9 years, and then worked with the American School of Bombay for a total of 18 years. She then moved to Abu Dhabi as the founder principal of Mayiir Private School, a center of excellence for students where technology is the backbone of education. Being a frequent workshop leader, she has provided professional development for teachers in schools in a variety of settings, including India, Australia, and the UAE. Her deep knowledge and experience in organizational learning is reflected in her leadership style and in the school she leads. She has become the leader of the first one-to-one tablet or laptop programs in the UAE. She sets high standards for her staff, and this has helped Mayiir Private School being the only ISO 9001-2015 certified CBSE school in the region. Her enthusiasm and vivacious approach to work creates an energetic climate, inspiring new opportunities for her students and teachers. As the learning during the pandemic moved online, she was instrumental in ensuring that the students get the best possible educational experience even during these difficult times. She trained her staff to deal with the situation and is taking Mayiir to greater heights as it continues to be the best CBSE school providing online education. Ma'am, privileged to have you with us today. We also have with us Dr. Ashish Kumar Sarkar, who is an influential administrator, known as the best educator, and is an impressive personality. He is known as the curriculum designer and an effective teacher's trainer. He is currently associated with Vidya Bhavan School in Wardha district, Maharashtra. He has the experience of 22 years as teacher, vice principal, principal, and city coordinator of National Test Agency. He is a keen observer, and his ability to convert challenges into opportunities is known to one and all. Sir, privileged to have you with us.
Thank you.
I shall now stop the share, switch on my camera so that we can start the discussion. Once again, thank you so much for making the time for this discussion. It's our privilege to play host to both of you. Before I come to my direct questions, if I may get across the table for your opening thoughts about today's topic. Ms. Pagdiwalla, if we may start with you.
Thank you very much. And good evening to all.
Good evening.
Traditionally, I would say, what does it mean to be a parent? It means to go to the children's school, attend the conferences, functions, etc. But parent involvement in the 21st century means a great deal more than that. Parents have to be much more participative. They have a participative role in the child's education, and they also take leadership roles. Now, if we are asked to think of what it was like for us when we went to school, in those formative years, what do we envision? We envision a teacher who's standing in front of the classroom and everybody is sitting and looking at the board and the teacher is talking and the students are just absorbing. There is no interaction. There is no, we don't see any display of the skills. But in education nowadays, we see a new set of skills, namely the 21st century skills of collaboration, creativity, communication, and critical thinking, the most important of all. And previously, there was a lot of rote learning and memorization, which did not help students to, get actively involved and become creative thinkers, which they are now. Learning in the pandemic has really helped a lot of, yes, it has its ups and downs, but where learning is concerned, the students have become owners of their own learning and they learn more collaboratively. They work together. They come together on platforms like these, like Zoom, WebEx, etc. And learning is very, very different. Like, again, I would like to go back and say previously it was only reading, writing, and arithmetic. And now it was more knowing, knowledge. Now it is more understanding and applying. Application is very, very important for students today, and the role the parents play also. Like in the previously, what I would say is, there is a saying. There's a saying which said that it takes a village to raise a child. But in the 21st century, it takes a village to educate one too. Because it's not only, it's only studying and it's only grades and, oh, you got a 93, whereas my friend's son got a 94.2. That doesn't define who you are. It is all a play of numbers. Who you are depends on how you grow within rather than without. So these are the new changes which I think online education has brought into, because from supporters, students have changed to being active participants, understanding the needs, and from nurturers to teachers, communicators, advisors, collaborators, and decision makers. I think all this is very important because as educators, we have to now plan how to connect and engage students and how to teach them, teach their families how to partner this new education, the new way, the new normal, as we say, and how to support it. Open two-way communication channels have to be there. Some of the panelists before me mentioned, and they have to ensure that their families' engagement strategies are ongoing and equitable for all. Now, according to just a little statistics here, according to UNESCO, the closure of schools all over the world in order to, contain the pandemic, coronavirus pandemic, has affected 91% of the student population. And if you see, national exams have also been postponed for students. Parents are now tasked, I think, more with homeschooling, aided by digital technologies, to provide education. Parents, I feel, should be more like a continuous learner themselves in order to support their child's learning. They should emphasize that there is no limit to learning and it is a lifelong process, and encourage their children to use their mind. This will help them to realize what they learn, and then they'll apply what they learn in school, outside of school. You teach them about different cultures and languages. This bridges the gap between, different people, their cultures and languages. And children should be able to express their thoughts, and they must ask questions. And it's only then that it is effective, it is effective and helps them in their mode of learning and communication. Now, the internet, very briefly, I want to touch upon it, allows a very easy and rapid dissemination of information, because of which children need to proficiently filter, interpret, and evaluate that information. Hence, children should be able to understand and interpret graphical knowledge, problem solve, etc. Data mining, which wasn't there as a profession just as back as 5 years ago, is now a very leading profession. Teaching students with artificial intelligence and with augmented reality helps them understand their work better and retain it better. In this part of the world, we have what is known as PISA. I don't know, if it is there in India. We have examinations, PISA examinations, and the analysis. And that showed, it shed light on the role the teacher plays with the students, and parents also play, and they give an emotional support. And I think these are important drivers for development of different attitudes for the students. I would just then like to sum up, because much is said before me, and I think I rather like an interactive session than just me talking. And so I would just like to end up saying that parenting education and counseling was the key during this COVID crisis for well-being, preservation of learning, motivation, and safety of children beyond their necessary involvement in learning and the assessment culture of the schools. I feel now the teacher is no longer a teacher, she is a facilitator, and it's always best to be friends with the students, and the same goes for parents, because if we see nowadays, the topmost companies, Fortune 500 companies, Google, Facebook, what else? What is the other one? Yeah, Instagram, etc., etc. All these, and I tell my students regularly, all these, they don't hire seeing a paper. Oh, what have you done? What did you get in your master's? What did you get in your graduate, undergrad? No. They give you a situation, they just talk to you, take your interviews, and see how well you can problem solve. And I think that is important today. Multitasking, efficient management of time, and problem solving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. But we won't not let you go that easy because this was just the opening remarks. I do have questions afterwards. We'll first go across to Dr. Sarkar for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr.
Sir.
Roy. Namaste, everybody. Before opening remark, I do have one statement. Maybe it is beyond your topic today, what we are going to talk. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Loud and
Yeah.
clear.
What we are going to talk about the role of the parents in child's education. So before opening remark, I think it's a need of the hour to have a school for the parents, not for my new age children. And why can't, with the partnership notebook, let's plan to have a school for the parents. As far as this opening remark concerned, when I was just reading biography of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, father of our nation, somewhere he mentioned very clearly that every home is a university and the parents are the teachers of that university. But time has changed. This new age parents, I'm not saying new age children, this era where children are more equipped with the all technologies, 360-degree of knowledge, social media, the peer learning. Now peer learning is shifted into peer influences. When we are talking about the 360-degree knowledge, it means they do have more sources of informations. In comparatively, we people, we do have some limitations. So this time in this era, a modern parent, I'm using this word, modern parents, cannot have expectation, unquestioned obedience behavior from their children. Definitely, for their every piece of instruction, for every piece of command, order, request, suggestion, whatever you say, whatever terminology you use, children will have a question. Children will ask question. And no doubt, we are teaching them the same thing in our school. You question more. We are here to answer. So now, as I was listening, Achin was talking about the mindset of the parents. That need of the change in the mindset of the parent. So let me add here, yes, there is a need to change the mindset to fixed mindset towards growth mindset. If the time will permit, I will elaborate a little more. Because the parents, they have to accept all the changes. The reading, writing style, or you can say studies style, whatever you say. So this is a need of the hour to have a dialogue with them. It's a responsibility of the parents to convert their arguments into the debate. If really you want to create an environment of education at your home, all schools are doing their work very wonderfully. But then somewhere, if we talk about the stakeholders of the school, we all are equally responsible. We cannot shift responsibility shoulder to shoulder. It's a responsibility of the parents, it's a responsibility of a teacher, it's a responsibility of the head of the school or the children. No, it's a collective responsibility. So once again, I am saying, modern parents cannot have this expectation or cannot look towards children with silently they will just follow them or their obedience behavior. What earlier, when I was child, because I was not having that much source of information, I was not smart. Now the child does have the technology and the mobile, he wants to be smarter than the parents. So when the parents, they are saying, do not use this mobile, a parents has to evaluate themselves, how long they are using mobile at home and how much valuable time they are spending with their children. As far as you see child education concern and the parents' role, yeah, two partnership needed for that. One is parents-teacher partnership, it is needed. And the second is parents-children partnership. Both the partnerships are very, very important. Then only child education is possible. I was listening even Flip also, and Flip was talking about and he spoke very well. Parenting is a continuous activity, irrespective of the age factor and this. To balance the socio-emotional behavior. During this 22-year journey, it's my observation, the children, those who are excel academically, but they are I'm very sorry I'm using this word, maybe little I'm harsh, but they are worst in socio-emotional balancing method. One day a child is even not able to answer in a question in front of the classmates. The child is throughout the day after teacher's like, why did you ask me this question? This question was too difficult. Deliberately you asked me. You can understand the mindset of children also. So this is what I wanted to say. And then moreover, the way we talk, I'm talking about the parents, the way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. So parents, they have to be very, very careful if really you want to play in child education. So this is my opening remark.
Thank you so much, sir. Given the wealth of experience that we have on this panel, it is, I think, very justifiable if I ask you about how you've seen this, the role of parents evolving, right? I'm sure years ago when you started teaching and you had your first initial interactions with parents and how you interact with them today would be two very different experiences. Ma'am, if I may first come to you with that question, how have you seen that evolve? Ma'am, you're on mute.
Young parents, when I meet them, some of them have the agenda laid down. When I give you an example, when I talk to them about, interview them, their child is coming to the school for KG1. And I want my child to complete grade 12. After that, must do science, then become a doctor, then this, all laid out. I said, wow, really? And are you a doctor? She says, no, but my father and my father's father, etc., were all doctors, and I want my child to be a doctor. I said, okay. Then when I look at the father and I say, you are what? An engineer. Okay, either a doctor or an engineer. So I say, are you happy in what you are doing? You'll be surprised at the response. They look down. They don't even look into my eye. They look down and nod their heads. So if you are not happy in your own profession, why are you pushing your child towards it? You are doing a disservice to your child. In the olden days, yes, we had only art, science, commerce. So, parents, it's different. Some parents in the olden days had no clue of what was happening because they were working day and night to make two ends meet. Then a time came when parents started getting educated. Both the parents were working and they had a lot of aspirations for the child. And if the child doesn't meet up to that, it's very sad. Some of them commit suicide, and it's very wrong to, pressurize the children so much. Just leave them be and they do what they want. Shall I give you my example? When I was working with the American School of Bombay, I had given birth to my baby boy, and he was very creative minded. He was not good in rote learning. I know that. Of course, he did his IB, but because I was in the school, and very small example, he would never eat his food without watching a cartoon on television. And it used to really hit me that what is there in this that is exciting him so much at such a young age of, he was in grade 7 and 8, when he told me that I will make this one day. So at that time, you don't bother, you say, yeah, okay, finish your food first. You know what I'm saying? I agree. I can agree to my mistakes too. And after that, of course, cartoons are no longer 2D. They are 3D, 4D, and 5D now. And he went to university in Canada, and now he worked in London and right now in Vancouver as we speak with EDA, one of the biggest gaming companies which makes games. So I just left him. He did what he wanted, and he's so passionate, and he's a workaholic. He has a time to go, but no time to come back home, just like his mother. So I feel when you leave the kids, parents are not hounding the kids to do what they want them to do because their dreams are not fulfilled. They want to fulfill the dreams of their children through, their dreams through their children is not right. Leave your kids alone, and I think they will excel and they'll be very passionate in what they do. And I give a lot of counseling to parents on a regular basis. And coming back and closing the loop to the question that what do you see in parents earlier and now is this, that of course not all are going to adapt and listen, but some do, and they have seen the change in their children. So I think it really helps, and I agree with Achin that parents need, I don't think they need a school. What they need is a lot of counseling. They need a lot of counseling more than the kids. I will end with another second example. When I talk to my kids, I tell them, my 11, 12 students, go out with your parents, go for dinner with them, talk to them, have a conversation with them. Develop the bond, because I see that bond between student and parent is on the decline. And I quote, the next day, the student comes to me and tells me, Miss Anna, you said you have to go out with your parents and talk and this and that. How are you doing in your studies? What grades you got? Etc., etc., etc. There was no other conversation with them besides studies. You see, children who are 17 and 18-year-olds need to be spoken to in another way, and life is not all about studies. When you're 35 and 40 years old or 45 years old, do you even care what you got in your graduation? No. What you care about is how successful you have been in life. How well you have problem solved, how well you have thought out of the box, and how well you are close to your children, your old parents, your wife or husband. That's more successful in life than your 94.5 or whatever, 95.6, excuse me. I completely don't believe in numbers at all. And kids do so well because I don't want them to do well in just the exam. I want to follow them 5 years from now where they are and how successful they are in life and where have they got jobs and how are they enjoying. That is more important than this number game parents have in their heads. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Sarkar, I'll come to you with the same question about evolution, but with a bit of a twist. How have you seen the gender roles changing? Because I remember years ago, the upbringing of the young child was pretty much the mother's job. And the father would wash his hands of it pretty much. Today, we are expecting more equality between the genders in all roles in life. Have you seen that change, sir?
Yeah, even I have observed also. And let me tell you, this pandemic situation created this changing the role of between the two genders. Even the children also now they are the eyewitness. Ki Papa there is, he's in the kitchen and Mama is watching TV like that. So that changes is there. But as far as, this Philip also was mentioning the role of father and the mother. What is the role of father? What is the role of mother? both are equally important. Let me tell you one thing, whenever the parents, they come to me, they do have a one common complaint, and specifically mothers, they do in front of me. Sir, he or she does not listen me. He or she does have fear of Papa only. Even I'm trying to control over it, but it is not possible. I said, first time when you said, when your child made a mistake, what did you say? Aane do, Papa ko bataungi. That day child understood that my mama does not have power to make me correct, only my Papa can correct it. So this, what you're talking about the gender, I'm telling you, the parents, they have to be very, very careful. That's why always I say this thing to all moms, that when child is committing any mistake, in absence of father, don't say, I'll complain to your father. You deal that. You make it correct. So they will realize, no, my mama also in the same equal position, even my mama also can scold. Mama is overprotection. Mama is not there to just slap, but saying, Papa aayenge to Papa marenge, Papa will punish you. So the thing is that this changes is needed, and now parents, they are realizing it. It is not a one side, one gender task to just have a parenting. It is a both side. Another thing is that as changes in the parenting you're saying, it is my observation. I do not know why, but it is fact. As I'm very sorry, this Annahita ma'am is there. I was not talking about really school for the parents. I was talking how to teach them. But I do agree there is much more counseling is needed, what generally we do. So what is happening, you see, it is a common scenario of the school. Right from nursery to standard 5th, parents are much more concerned with the children. How children they are behaving, how children they are active, what marks they are scoring. But as soon as child is promoting to standard 6, I do not know, slowly involvement of parents deteriorating. What they realize, I do not know. That also we are teaching to our parents. It should be just vice versa. Right from nursery to 5th, you do not worry whether child is scoring 0 or child is scoring 90. This is the time, nursery to 5th, you have to give them the values, you have to have a dialogue with them, you have to develop their communication skill, and you just have to keep eye whether my child is active or not. Instead of keeping this thing, what marks child is scoring, what ma'am was saying, number game. So please do not make children robot for the marks. First, make them human being. How to behave, how to talk. As you're talking about this gender changes, yes, earlier it was like that. For children, parents, or among parents, father was like that. If father only can punish, father only can correct, mother cannot. But now that is changed. Now there is a need of the hour to have a responses in place of the reaction from both the sides, whether father is there or the mother is there. And there is a need to have a patience listening from the children end to what actually they want. Because somewhere I read a beautiful quotation, I want to just quote here. No school can work well for children if parents and teacher do not act in a partner on behalf of children of their best interest. So both the parents, they have to find out what is the best interest of child, and they have to work out on that.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. My last question. I'll go to ma'am first. Ma'am, in the current situation of the online education, while for ages it's been believed that the parents are not paying enough attention, suddenly they're sitting inside the classroom, right? Ma'am, how do you see the role of the parents in this particular situation where they are a bigger stakeholder, if I may use the word, in the whole education process?
Yes, parents are now, their role has, since they are also working from home, they are important stakeholders. And I wouldn't say all, but only some sit with their children when online education is going on. and others don't. They just leave the child and the child does wonderfully well. Now, one other thing I want to talk here about parents is that when they are busy, when they are on the telephone, when they are having their own cocktail parties, and the child is disturbing them, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, what do? They give them mobile phones. Like Sir just now said, this is how it begins. It begins like that, Papa ko bolungi. This is how it is here. In this case, it is, take this phone. As soon as the child gets the phone, whether the child is 2 years old or onwards, the child stops troubling any parent or any auntie for that matter and just figures out and plays. He is so involved, he or she. And then slowly, as the child grows up, and now, for example, in the pandemic, they have to be online whilst working as well as for the little homework or whatever they get. And after that, they want to recreate themselves on the laptop or whatever other device they have. And then the same parents are complaining that they are too much on the screen and there's a lot of screen time which they are using and you all must reduce the hours of school, this and that. I agree with them, and I feel that this is a warning of withdrawal. What do I mean, warning of a withdrawal? I mean, when school starts face to face, kids will find it very difficult to adapt because they are at least 40 hours a week on their mobile phones. So we only push them down that slide of technology because we need to spend more time with them. Some parents do, of course, I'm not saying all. Some do and some don't. So what do you need to do with your child? Have a conversation, go mountain biking, go swimming, teach your girls to sew, teach them little cooking. These are all other activities which you can, involve yourself. And I believe some parents are doing that now in the pandemic because they are forced to do it. They have no choice. If you see the relationship between the parents and the children now, it's improving and getting better because you see them day in and day out. And of course, sometimes there are also tempers do fray here and there. But at the end of the day, you are with them and it's not a small amount of time. I think we've already crossed 10 months and in February or March, we'll have 1 year and still no signs of face-to-face school. So we need to be very wary and aware of that because the more the child is on the gaming sphere, the child gets lonely, the child gets depressed. And that's what, as parents, we don't have to let it happen and be more involved with the child. I'm not going to talk about rules, set rules for your child, only 2 hours on the laptop or 1 hour on the mobile phone. No. You don't set the rules as parents. Let the child make their own rules. If the child makes his or her own rules, there'll be a lot of buy-in and the child will adhere to it. So this is what I see happening.
Wonderful, ma'am. Dr. Sarkar, I'll get across to you with the same question, sir.
Yeah, as far as your question was, if I'm not wrong, that parents' role for online classes you're talking about. See, Mr. Roy, parents' involvement is a key indicator of a success of any virtual class. That is my first statement I'm telling you. It is the need of the hour. The parents, they have to involve themselves directly with the online classes. How they can involve? What are the ways they can involve? Later I will talk on the monitoring and how to motivate them. But first of all, I think pandemic situation now arose, but I remember 10 years before only, I used to say to my all parents, if the birthday celebration is there and if you want to give a gift to your child, better to have one laptop. That time I used to say. So as far as today's concern, or even I can say the online classes, it can work better when the parents are there with the online classes. It doesn't mean the parents, they have to sit with children for the next 2 hours or the 3 hours. But before commencement of such classes, what are the precautionary measures you are taking for your children? A very small things are there. The size of the screen where the child will sit. Why child is not enjoying online classes? Because the matter is the size of the screen. Even nowadays in every home, smart TV is available. Easily you can connect those online classes with the television screen. Needless to have the laptop or the mobile. You have to work out on that. How I can make more effective these online classes for my children. The second is that your net connection, because you see what I'm saying, Mr. Roy, such things, obstacles, poor connections, small screens, visibility is not there. They dominate and suppress children's interest towards online classes. Then what child is doing? If suppose I am sitting in front of your screen, you're talking to me. If I find, Mr. Roy is looking here and there, or it is not very clearly audible, what I will do? I will just engage myself somewhere else. The same thing is happening with children. So that is a pre-online classes. There is a role of the parents. You have to decide this. You do have a very good connection of your internet. If you do have a proportionate size of screen where the child can enjoy. Not only that, with this online classes, it doesn't mean that only school is providing this online platform and teacher is one side on the screen. So parents cannot speak. Parents should speak with the teachers. What actually my child likes and dislikes. Not only that, parents, they have to teach, even it's the responsibility of the school and the teachers also, we do in our school. Every week, every interval, how to use online classes, what are the yogas and asanas in the regular interval, as ma'am was mentioning very clearly. If we cannot set a rule, particular rule, you have to sit for 2 hours or 3 hours, because this online classes is again subject to interest of child. How much child is interested? If child is interested, you see, when I'm telling you the fact and the real example, you see a child is on screen with the video game for 5 to 6 hours. Child is not tired. Child is not hungry. Child is not thirsty continuously because that interest is there. That junoon is there. I have to win this game. But the same way when the online classes is there, sometimes because of such small, what we do not care, their proper seating arrangement, the distance between your child and your screen, these the parents, they can play a very vital role so that children will have the interest. As far as now I'm switching over to regular monitoring, right from lower classes to higher classes. This regular monitoring is required. Specifically, I am talking about the higher classes. Please do not allow your children to sit in a separate room, a separate study room where the net facility is available. You see, I do have 2 kids, my daughter, my son. I say them, if you want to use internet, you sit in hall where I am sitting, or sit in a dining room and use internet. I'm not going to and access in their personal, what are they doing, but somewhere indirectly that message is there, if somebody is watching you, what are you doing on screen, where you are going to, and the parents, they have to learn this thing to their children, what is right, what is wrong, which are the unwanted websites are available where you should not log on, it is not for you, how it is harmful. So that way they can guide, they can help their children. Parents, they can motivate. You see, I'm sitting before you, I'm looking me on my screen, I'm feeling happy. Yeah, somewhere I'm going to compare with Amitabh Bachchan ji. I'm trying to speak like Amitabh Bachchan ji. So before commencement of that class, if you are starting your mobile phone screen or your laptop, if for a few seconds, few hours, or whatever you say, you can show your child on the screen. You see you're on the screen, and your teacher also will look you on the screen. We have to have a proper dress-up uniform. You have to sit in a very proper way, because you will look very smart on the screen. You see, you're going to generate curiosity and the interest among children. In that way, parents can help for the online classes to children.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the amount of advice that we have given out today, I will add to what I said right after Mr. Burrett had spoken, that if YouTube has a list of parenting advice videos, we are going to climb those charts. Thank you so much, sir. Ma'am, you had something that you wanted to present. Would this be a good time for you to present, ma'am? Ma'am, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
It is just to, I just wanted to show the original role and the new role.
Sure, ma'am.
Teachers and students. So I just very quickly, it'll just hardly take a few minutes. I hope it is visible on your screens.
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, the role of the 21st century education and schooling is not to consume the knowledge, but to create your own knowledge and adapt it. So it's like you are becoming now innovators. So from passive learning, the shift is to active learning. From completing, it is to creating and making. From consuming, it is to producing the knowledge, not memorizing, but processing the knowledge, not replicating, cut, copy, paste, no, but create it. And you're not working as a standalone in isolation. You are working together with your peers. So you're collaborating and reflecting. The knowledge is very fluid and it's autonomous. And we encourage all the students of today to ask questions. I think that is very, very important. In the olden days, the classes were very teacher-centric. So anytime a student would ask a question and the teacher did not know the answer, she would just say, keep quiet, sit down. If the child would ask the question again, the child would be shown the door. And that's because the teacher didn't know the answer. Or the teacher would say, I will tell you later, and that later would never come. Now, in contrast to that, it is student-driven and students listen and there is mass customization and there is no one linear stream that, oh, I'm doing only physics, chem, bio, maths, oh, I'm the nerd, I'm the genius. No. You can even do music and maths as subjects. And there is no scarcity of knowledge. There is so much of knowledge nowadays coming through all different media channels that it takes more time for the mind to process it. But it doesn't stop at the rate at which the knowledge comes in. There is abundance of knowledge. And now we are not content experts. Even if you don't know content, you can go to Google and you can read it. But are you able to process it? Are you able to analyze it? And are you able to critically evaluate it? Before teaching the children, the teacher should be capable of that. Only then can this be passed on to students. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The only small request is, in case people are looking for content, they can also come to Notebook instead of Google, and I'm quite sure we'll be able to help them out.
Sure. But it is always better if you create your own content. Because I'm sure you are employing creators.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for sharing all those wonderful thoughts with us. And on that slightly self-promoting note, let me now invite Achin back for the vote of thanks. Achin, you have quite a bit to thank for, so take it away.
Really a wonderful session, Shubhayu. Burrett sir, Pagdiwalla ma'am, and Dr. Sarkar. Couldn't thank you enough. Burrett sir, your wealth of experience has always added tremendous value in every session that we had so far. And some very relevant aspects you highlighted, which at a later point of time, other esteemed panelists also elaborated in further details. Now, ma'am, I guess I really like that particular part of your deliberation, and I'm sure many of our esteemed educators and parents have taken note. When you asked a very relevant question, that as a principal, as an esteemed educator, very often you have asked many parents who have things all laid down, plans for next 15 years, 16 years, and maybe with best intentions, but overburdening their children with their own unfulfilled expectations. Are you happy? I guess that's the most important question. Being happy. And letting a child blossom, him or her do what he or she really wants to do is the right way forward. Another very interesting aspect that you highlighted is, and that, things come back in circle. At times, giving mobile phone to a child and later point of time, in order to ensure that parents can have their own personal time, and later point of time, it turning out to be an addiction and parents complaining about it. So some very important and relevant aspects you highlighted, warning of withdrawal, and also simple things which really brings joy to life, be it mountain biking, swimming, cooking, swimming. And yes, indeed, irrespective of the fact and in spite of the fact that this pandemic has been probably the worst humanitarian crisis that we have witnessed during our lifetime, undoubtedly person relations have improved. Every home, all of us, we have spent far more time with our family members, be it our parents, grandparents, or our children. So I completely agree with you on that aspect. Dr. Sarkar, I really thank you for a very thought-provoking session and some aspects that you highlighted, be it need for counseling. And I guess, that's completely correct. Need for counseling of parents. And that really helps. And I'm sure esteemed educators in this particular forum are already lending out a helping hand. But this is a continuous process, and parenting, as again, Burrett also mentioned, and I think that is very correct, that every job has a retirement age, but parenting is something which is a lifelong process. And undoubtedly, very, very well said. And some other aspects that you highlighted, I really connected with them because these are some aspects that we also thought in great details when we conceptualized notebook. So be it in terms of fitment to any device, be it a smart TV, internet bandwidth speed that you mentioned. Undoubtedly, these are facts which are beyond control. Although thanks to telecom companies, things are definitely improving at a fast pace, but still, for instance, just to share with all of you, every notebook video has multiple versions. Every notebook video. There are videos which have more than 15 versions, 10 versions, 15 versions. The entire objective is, and these versions are with different resolutions. The objective is, and the way the entire backend architecture is made, based on the internet connectivity, based on the speed at the user's end, the system automatically selects the particular version of video that needs to be played so that the child has a smooth and uninterrupted viewing. Again, another very important aspect you highlighted, engagement. I guess that's the key. That has been the actually our cornerstone. Very relevant question you asked, that a child who can sit for hours on video games or might be at a younger age watching cartoons, but at times getting bored and tired of online classes. So this is one aspect which we have really tried from our side to relentlessly work on, I guess, making education engaging, ensuring that the entire experience is a pleasure in storytelling mode, so that the child studies even without, at times, especially younger classes, even without realizing that he or she is studying content which is mapped to the curriculum. Because I guess there are certain things which are inevitable, like a certain screen time, which actually as parents, we cannot do away with. So we thought it really makes sense if we could utilize that screen time properly. Instead of the child engaging in distracting activities, why not engage in studying and watching content? Some really wonderful facts that you pointed out, and simple small things, I think completely agree with you. Like for instance, encouraging the child to use internet in parents' presence. Maybe the parent is not looking at the screen, but at least there's an implied presence, which we all agree with. And that's for their own security and safety. So we really had a great session and some very, very important takeaways that all of us go home with. And the spirit for the evening, what Burrett said, I guess really sums it up, that parenting is a lifelong process. So I thank all of you for being with us here today evening. And I look forward to your continued presence in the sessions to come. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.